What's up? So in this video, we're going to learn about cold calling. We're going to learn how to pick up the phone and dial somebody. You see, ever since the invention of the phone, of the telephone, I'm talking about landlines, we have this entire league of people whose only job was to pick up the yellow pages and just call people, right? So we had this centralized repository of phone numbers and we just call people, right? And, it's been an age-old technique. It used to work then and it still works now. One of the mistakes I made in my career was not understanding the value of cold calling fast enough. I used to think cold calling is just for, telemarketers and spammers and it doesn't really work. But the truth is cold calling works. It works to build a relationship. You just have to have a little more courage to be able to do it. And somebody you believe in needs to sit down and tell you it works. I had a lot of people sit down and tell me, Varun, you should have your sales team cold call. But I was like, nah, it's the digital age, right? I don't think anybody should call these days. But the truth is, it works. And I've had to eat my own words when it comes to cold calling because I was adamant that it doesn't work. And then I ran a test and then I saw it work. And now I just shut up about cold calling and I just tell people, look, it works, but at the end of the day, it's your own experience. So in this video, let's talk about cold calling. So cold calling is often, it goes hand in hand with cold emailing. So you don't just cold call or you don't just cold email. You do it in something called a double tap. So if you're in the world of sales and if you're watching this video, then you have to be in the world of sales. I would suggest you subscribe to Sales Hacker. It's a free, It's a free podcast thing. I don't know if it's podcast. It has a lot of different things apart from the podcast, but I just listen to the podcast. So you can just subscribe to Sales Hacker. You can just Google it. It has many top sales VPs talking about their sales process for free. So you get to learn how really big vice presidents of sales do their sales process. So notice, and if you go through maybe 5 or 6 podcasts on Sales Hacker, you'll notice how all the sales processes are similar. They're very, very similar. All big companies do sales in a very similar way, but they're slightly different, right? There's 90% similar, but 10% differences, right? And that's why I listen to podcasts. Otherwise, I've just listened to 1 or 2 episodes and be like, yeah, I'm done. This podcast in particular is about cold calling plus cold emailing. And you can just click on this link. This deck is in the resources section. Just click on the link. It's by Derek Grant, who is the VP of commercial sales at SalesLoft. Now, if I remember correctly, SalesLoft did $40 million in revenue last year or this year. One of the two. The point is, it's a very popular company. They're making a lot of money. And if you want to learn how to do sales, it's one of the best companies to do sales with. Again, we have no partnership with this company. They're actually a competitor of Foxbounce. But I will still mention them because they've nailed the sales process. They've got it down, perfected down to the T, right? So try to go through this episode of Sales Hacker. It's called The Most Effective Sales Cadences to Build Your Pipeline. Cadences and pursuits are the same thing. So take a look at it. So I want to reiterate the goal because this slide was there in the cold emailing episode as well. The goal, whether you do a cold email or a cold call, is to get a meeting. It is not to sell on the first call. It is to get a meeting. Getting a meeting, demo, face-to-face or Skype is the goal of sending out cold emails, cold calling, right? This is the goal. Busy people don't like wasting time on unclear solutions. Same rules apply here. You can't call somebody and tell somebody, oh, I have an idea. They're just going to hang up on you. They also want every meeting to be useful to them. It's like, think about it, right? When I work, when I do business and somebody calls me and says, I need this, or, do you want this, and it's not relatable to me, I'm not going to take the call. And a lot of people, in fact, give me a hard time for this, for not taking every call that comes my way. And I get a lot of calls. Think about it from your perspective, right? Say somebody's calling you in the morning to sell you a vacuum cleaner, but you don't need the vacuum cleaner and you will never need a vacuum cleaner. Or somebody's calling you in the evening and selling you some tour to Ibiza or something and you're not interested in going there. Why would you take a call with that person? Why would you spend 5 or 10 minutes listening to the person's pitch, right? You know for a fact you're not going there. And I see business the same way I see my personal life, right? I know you're not supposed to, but I see it as the same thing, right? And because of that, I see the things that I do in business, I like to be very conservative of my time, right? I don't want to be disturbed so I can focus on creating content like this, right? Imagine if I got 5 calls now with people telling me, oh, buy this. It's pointless. But if you have a clear solution and it helps me, Say somebody called me and told me, Varun, I know you're doing live videos, but how about, this particular tool that'll help you do live videos, right? Then I'd be interested in talking about it. If somebody's selling me some, product was saying SaaS tool that helps people, jump over trees, I'm not interested. Right? I'm not interested. Again, don't ask for advice. You're robbing people of valuable time. It's a bad habit. Just don't do it. So here's the gist of cold calling. And I'm going to show you a video that I made on cold calling some time ago, which is very, very comprehensive. It's a 20-minute video, but here's the gist. Prepare an opening statement. Be very specific about when you can have an appointment, because the goal of cold calls, remember, is to get an appointment. So either get a demo or a call or whatever. Be very specific. Use humor, right? Try to be funny. I know not all of us can be stand-up comedians. I'm the worst when it comes to jokes, but try to integrate some humor. You can practice the line also. Prepare a closing statement, which is try to end the call on some note, and use a script for the value proposition. A lot of cold callers, they pick up the phone and they come up with stuff on their own, which is not sustainable. Your speed will go down. Every cold call will take you 15 minutes to, just deliver, because you're coming up with stuff in your mind. There's a lot of load on your head, because every cold call you have to improv it on spot. I can't deny that that's good for training. It's very good to, as a person, to cold call, because you learn a lot about it, but it's not very good if you want it to be scalable. If you want to do 100 cold calls a day, the right thing to do would be to have a separate opening statement, a separate closing statement, but the middle parts should be the same. And what I would suggest is you just read out a script. Right? The middle part should just be a script, so you don't have to think about it, especially your company's pitch or your value proposition. We like to call it value prop. And use switchers. So when you have an introduction and the introduction has nothing to do with your pitch, learn to switch the conversation from the introduction saying, hey, I saw your dog on Instagram. It was a cute dog. Learn how to switch that from there to the value prop. Right? And don't worry, people understand when they're being sold to, and they will still take a call as long as you tell them, hey, I saw your dog on Instagram. Some relatability has to be there. Right? So they say, oh, thank you. Right? And then you switch to the actual whatever you ask for. One of the leaders in cold calling, according to me, is a company called Gong.io. Again, we have no partnership or relationship with them. It's a software that analyzes cold calls and helps sales leaders train their reps. Now, I'm just going to show you what this blog looks like, right? In my opinion, this one particular blog is the master thesis of cold calling. So this is on, how to buy as much time as possible. And, once your buyer answers, you have 5 seconds to earn 5 minutes. There's a lot about cold calling. I'm not going to go through it because, it's their work. They put in the hard work. I don't want to claim it's mine. So I've just linked you to it, right? So you guys can just, click on this link. It's gong.io/blog/cold calling tips, or you can download the deck in the resources section. And it's currently the best resource on how to cold call well, right? So make sure you cold call well. Finally, one thing that I never used to do in the past, but I've started doing these days, especially as the sales team has gotten bigger, is to do a pre-call planner, which is before every call, we do a pre-call planner, which is what is the plan? Who are we talking to? Are we connected on LinkedIn? What is the impact on the deal? Because remember, when you have these calls with people, if it's your first call, that's fine. That's a cold call. But after that, you have warm calls. And you need to know a little bit about all the people that are going to be in this meeting, right? So here's a free template for a pre-call planner. Let me just show you how the template looks. I've linked it again. All of this is free. It's available on Evernote. And you can see this, right? So this pre-call planner, you put in the name, you put in the role of the person, you put in the impact of the person. Have you met before? Are you connected on LinkedIn? And, what is the dominance of the person? Influence, steadiness, compliance. And as you can see here, you can, in sales, there is this idea of dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. It's very similar to the ocean model, but a little different, right? So in this, you can specify whether a person is dominant. You just put a D. Compliance was, does the person listen to you? That's a C. If a person has influence, whether the person influences other people, that's an I. And steadiness, which is a person will not budge over something, that's an S. And you can just put in different characters for a person. So a person could be dominant and he could be steady. So you can put DS, right? And it's just a way of denotation. You don't have to use it. But the idea is that a lot of people in sales use it. This is from a company called Sandler Training. So think like, have you been pre-briefed? What are the relationship issues, business issues, roles and responsibilities? If you just spend one entire day, right, just finding out everything. So here's the thing, right? A lot of people, when they do sales, a lot of sales reps, they will pick up the phone and they will dial somebody, and then just before they dial the person, they will do research about the person. I don't think that's a very good technique, because there's something called context switch. So you're switching between phone and then back to a computer where you're doing research. That is not a smart idea. Instead, what I would suggest that you spend one entire day just doing research, right? If you have to call 100 people the next day, I would spend day one just doing research about 100 people, right? And writing them down in this call planner. And then the next day, you have the call planner in front of you. All you have to do is keep calling. You don't have to Google anybody. So you can just go on and on and on calling. And we use a software internally to call called AirCall, right? Again, no affiliation with these guys. What are they called? I don't think it's aircall.com. I think it's aircall.io. Sorry. So I don't use this. My sales team uses this. It's a modern phone system, right? So you can do the calling through the computer itself, right? And it's a very powerful system. They have a free demo. That's the only reason I linked you to them. All the others are paid, and you can directly, call customers one after the other. And if somebody doesn't pick up, their number goes back into the system so that it's round robined, so that you don't miss out on any numbers. You can plug in notes whenever you want to. But the idea is tools like this have pre-call planners. So on one day, I can just sit, and to every number that I'm going to call, once I know the name, the number, and where the person works, I can do some research. I can write some notes. So day one, you just write notes about somebody. Day two, you just go on and on and on and call all those people. Day three, you do your research again. Day four, you do your calls again. And this, in my opinion, the alternate day, this is an Avalon thing, right? The alternate day research and then calling, it just works wonders, right? Because you don't have context switch, there's less cognitive effort. There's less load on your head because you don't have to keep switching back and forth between the computer and actually dialing. Even if you're using the computer to do dialing, using a tool like AirCall, it's still painful to keep switching tabs, right? So instead, one day you're doing research, the other day you're just in cold calling mode, right? So no need to do research on the day you're doing cold calling. All right, so that's it for this episode. Catch you on the next.